Tonight, in the aftermath of the Scottish referendum and the Conservative Party conference, it looks like David Cameron has convinced a significant number of people that he will put everything right in the next Parliament. Not that they should be wondering why he hasn't done so in this Parliament, but that's beside the point. And they're going to ignore European human rights rulings and do their own thing with a new constitution, too. A new one, but they don't tell us if we've got an old one. Very strange. In the light of how Cameron has backed down on further Scottish reforms and delegation of power, of course, people now believe that he won't do the same to them. They wouldn't do that, would they? Let's find out as we take on another Doomwatch. It's 2 minutes past 6 on Friday, the 3rd of October 2014. There, we've decided we don't need a clock. All we have to do is tell you at the top of the show. So when you hear this on a repeat, doubt if this will ever make Dave, but who knows, then you'll know when it was recorded and in what context you should take all the information. My name is AlexG. Welcome along. www.peterborough.fm. You can hear us in audio, but if you're listening via the audio, don't forget you can watch us in sound and vision via ukcolumn.org/live. Now, I say that for a particular reason, because tonight we're going live to the Plymouth studio of the UK column, and this is where we test the equipment, and my heart races as we try to see whether everything connects nicely, and there's no need to worry. Are you there, Brian Gerrish?
He isn't.
He isn't. Hello, Mike.
Hello, I'm with you for the first 20 minutes, Alex. We had a visitor in the office today who is still here, and at the first ad break, we'll do a magical swap.
Just like that. Thank you very much. So yeah, we won't do a flash cut or whatever in the repeat recordings, because people will think you've metamorphosized a la Peter Capaldi, which of course is quite beneficial to you, because that means that you've got the Matt Smith role in this present incarnation. So there we go. Who have we got with us in the studio again? Well, time to rotate the camera and tell you that Lexi Manning is with us once more. Good evening,
sure
Lexi.
Am. Hello. How's everyone's day?
It's been hectic. How about yours?
A little bit manic, a little bit crazy, but we're here.
Indeed. And, of course, Lexi is waiting for your messages in the shout box. She's waiting for your messages via the text and the emails. We'll tell you in that fabled ad break at 20 past 6 exactly what goes on. So, here we are then, Mike. I'm just wondering if I've got anything particular which might be of a flavour for you. And I think there is one sort of near the back, which was, mortgages. Mortgages. One for you on mortgages here. Start off with no conferring. Daily Mail. Now, cop this. This is an absolute corker. Buyers who took out 125% mortgages with bailed out Northern Rock now face crippling rates of 13%. These forgotten victims of the banking crisis are being left stranded. They can't move home and are unable to take a cheaper mortgage deal because of the eye-watering interest rates being imposed on them. Those affected are borrowers who took out the now infamous Northern Rock Together mortgage, as in, we're all in this together. This allowed buyers to purchase a house without a deposit, take loans up to 25% more than the value of their property, and borrow up to 6 times their income. So, you know what it is, Mike. They're basically going to say, well, they deserve everything that's coming to them, taking out such ludicrously termed mortgages. But I suppose at the time, who was to know? Who was to know what was coming?
Oh, yeah. Who was to know, Alex? Nobody knew. Look, let's look at this. So this Northern Rock, owned by the taxpayer, is basically the Wonga of mortgage companies. So they target people that can't really afford mortgages with subprime loans, and they give these people the subprime loans, and then later on, once they've been bailed out by the taxpayer, then they charge these people that can't really afford the mortgages in the first place an extortionate interest rate that means that they still can't afford the mortgages. Well, they're basically going to take the property away, aren't they? And all I can say to that is, as we've been saying for quite some time, these bank base rates that we have at the moment of 0.5% are artificially being kept low because of the absolutely destroyed financial system. Mortgage rates are 4 or 5% above that. We're starting to see signs now where fixed rate deals that are longer than 2 years are becoming unavailable. And so in the not too distant future, people are going to be on shorter term fixed rate deals just in time for interest rates to start creeping back up again. And of course, once the interest rate for everybody starts going up to 1-2%, then that sticks the mortgage rate up to 7-8%. And then before we know it, it's going to be up to the point where everybody is around the 13% mortgage rate point. And what happens then? Because it's not just the subprime mortgagees that are going to be in trouble at that point. It's going to be lots of other people. Yeah.
Interesting that you should mention the fact of the mortgages jumping, because I took your advice and started having a look at what the deals were that were available. The mortgage I'm on at the moment isn't fixed in, locked in, or anything at the moment. It's just sort of trundling along. But what it's inherited from my previous lock-in, if you like, was the fact that you could actually take mortgage payment holidays. So if there was a reason that you needed 4, 5, 6, whatever number of months off from paying the mortgage, there was a facility within that you could make use to. And also there was a thing that if you made overpayments into your mortgage, you can also claim that money back, if you like, for other uses if you ever need it down the line. Now, the intriguing thing is, with all these new tracker mortgages and fixed rate mortgages that they've got out there, both those terms aren't there anymore. So if you choose to go for one of these, those sort of little fallback positions disappear. But as you say, the thing is, we're on 0.5% plus something over that 0.5% base rate to pay. About 2% in a lot of cases, so you're paying 2.5% interest at the moment, and a lot of these lock-ins are coming in, depending on the length of time that you lock the mortgage in for. They're coming in at anywhere between sort of 3% and 4%.
Yeah,
and the thing is, it's sort of doing your maths there and working out how long you should be locked in, and how much do you play the gambling game with this, because it's a casino. It really is in terms of locking your mortgage in. I mean I got completely and utterly stung the last time I locked my mortgage in, because I locked it in for 5 years, and I locked it in about 9 months before the interest rate went down to 0.5%, and I was on a fixed rate. So I was sort of eye-watering in terms of what I was paying in excess of what I should do. So it's one of these situations where people really are sort of almost between a rock and a hard place. What's the best thing to do? And it's something a decision that people can only take off their own back, and I can understand why a lot of people are so confused as to what the best thing to do is.
Well, I think you could spend a lot of time trying to work out what the best deal is and how to play the game with the mortgage companies and work out how you best deal with that, or you could just recognise that they were fraudulently manipulating the interest rates, and therefore probably your entire mortgage is fraudulent in the first place. And perhaps do something about the banks. At the end of the day, the banks are bankrupt. They are going to take people's property because they're bankrupt. They've got no option. They can't possibly pay off the outstanding. They can't possibly deal with the levels of debt that they are carrying and the levels of leverage that they're carrying. We saw a report. It's called the Geneva Report. Comes out once a year. The 16th Geneva Report was out a few days ago, and absolutely warning once again that banks as a whole, we're not just talking mortgages here, but banks as a whole are carrying levels of debt which are absolutely unsustainable and in fact worse than they were in 2007, 2008. And so, we can continue to try to play the game with mortgages and work out what's the best deal and spend all our time working out deals and all this kind of stuff. Or we can just say, look, these banks are behaving in an insane manner. They've been caught with their hands in the till so many times. Something has to be done about this, and let's do something about it, and split the banks up so that they are forced, split them up, regulate them so that they're forced to behave in an ethical manner.
Actually, I'm just looking. Probably this one might be in your sort of particular specialist area. This is from TheGuardian.com, and it's an opinion piece by George Monbiot. Apologise for swearing for those of you who know who George Monbiot is. He's not normally that on the cusp of what is occurring, but this is an intriguing one from him. The title is "The Lies Behind This Transatlantic Trade Deal." Plans to create an EU-US single market will allow corporations to sue governments using secretive panels bypassing courts and parliaments. So expanding on this, the European Commission insists that its transatlantic trade and investment partnership should include a toxin mechanism, as it's described, called investor-state dispute settlement. Where this has been forced into the other trade agreements, it has allowed big corporations to sue governments before secretive arbitration panels composed of corporate lawyers which bypass domestic courts and override the will of parliaments. This mechanism could threaten almost any means by which governments might seek to defend their citizens or protect the natural world. Already, it is being used by mining companies to sue governments trying to keep them out of protected areas, by banks fighting financial regulation, by a nuclear company contesting Germany's decision to switch off atomic power. After a big political fight, we've now been promised plain packaging for cigarettes, but it could be nixed by an offshore arbitration panel. The tobacco company Philip Morris is currently suing Australia through the same mechanism in another treaty. And here we go. We seem to have a situation here, Mike, where the corporatocracy, literally, if they don't like what a government has done, they can get their corporate lawyers up to the plate and sort everyone out and get things overturned.
This is another area that we've been warning about for a long time, Alex. What we've got here is a systematic teardown of Britain's constitution and, in fact, the constitutions of many countries. And at the same time, in parallel with that, we've got the wholesale privatization, corporatization of government services to the point where we are looking at a sovereignty issue here, and what type of entity is going to end up holding sovereignty? Is it going to be the corporate, some form of corporate sovereignty? Or is there going to be any such thing as national sovereignty anymore? And it's quite clear that there isn't going to be any such thing as national sovereignty under the policy that they're implementing at the moment. So increasingly, even the court service being privatized or outsourced, and we see, for example, council tax being collected where the councils are in fact renting the courts for the day in order to process their council tax arrears. And so what we're seeing very quickly now is a corporatocracy being established globally. And on the UK Column website, we have a series of articles written by a gentleman called Martin Edwards. It's called the One World Governance series. It covers many of these issues, and I recommend people have a read of those. But this is an extremely dangerous situation, because the relationship in Britain, at least, the relationship between individuals and the state is supposed to be one where the state protects the individual. The state is supposed to educate us, it's supposed to keep us healthy. That's what we pay tax for. The state isn't doing that, clearly. And in fact, it's getting to the point now where the state is beginning to actively treat people very badly. If we take Melanie Shaw as an example, we can come up with 100, 1,000, 10,000 other cases of this type of situation where the role of the state is reversed, and instead of the state being a protector, it's a persecutor. And of course, it's going to be 100 times worse living under a corporatocracy, because corporate entities tend not to care too much about individual rights, liberties. They only think about shareholder rights and profit. And so this is a very dangerous precedent and a very dangerous slope that we're sliding down at the moment.
It's one of these things. I always remember there was a friend of mine who, when I was just getting into this and trying to explain what was really going on, and he said, this has been one of the things in science fiction movies for ages, that the corporate bodies, the corporate organisations would take over from government. And he said, so is that what you're saying is actually out there? And it appears to be that seems to be one of the potential game plans, that we're literally government is going to be replaced by the corporations. And again, you think of so many sort of the dark science fiction films out there, and that was effectively what they were saying: beware the corporations.
I think that's absolutely right. And if we look at popular culture and science fiction and a range of popular culture, we do see, if you look back at some of the older stuff, there are hints of what was coming. I remember, I don't know if you remember the series Sliders, Alex.
Oh yes.
I never liked that style of program, but there was one particular, I don't know why I happened to see this one particular episode where the world that they appeared in, they slid into, was some set in the future and was being presented as a totalitarian type regime that they'd fallen into. And actually, if you were to look at that episode of Sliders today, you would struggle to actually not recognize the place that we live. And it's because it's all crept up on us so slowly that people choose to ignore it, or they don't recognize it. But the fact of the matter is, we're living under a pretty nasty regime at the moment. And I'm sure you saw the speech that David Cameron gave to the United Nations last week, where he was talking about extremism, and he is absolutely saying that there are violent extremists, and of course we've got to protect people against violent extremists, but there are also non-violent extremists, people that put forward points of view which are perhaps not the mainstream points of view, like, for example, suggesting that 7/7 was an inside job, or wasn't, in fact, didn't happen as a result of the actions of a few Muslim guys. So,
I mean, the press TV, obviously of Iran, actually we've got an article from them later on in the show, just to sort of illustrate what you're saying there, because I think this is a very crucial point. And certainly Richard D. Hall of Rich Planet is challenging our dear Prime Minister to a debate on all this. I think obviously the chances of that happening, as dear old Richard said in War of the Worlds, is probably 1,000,000 to 1, but at least it's a way of sort of wetting the whistle and trying to bring attention to that matter in hand. It's just about 6:20, so as Mike said, this is now time for us to basically give our good compadres in Plymouth a chance to sort of do a bit of hot desking and change positions. But so we will be back with Brian Gerrish. But for the moment,
sorry, Alex, can I just ask? Are you able to give us an extra 30 seconds on this break?
I'll tell you what I will do. I will put a "Don't Drive Tired" ad on as well, so you'll have an extra 30 seconds. So we'll fit that into the whole mosaic, and I'll also make sure that when we come back, I've got a bit of spiel to do. We'll hear from Lexi, and then back to you. So in real time, we give you 5 minutes.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyway, Mike, thanks for joining us. Some good stuff there to kick off the show and get people very, very relaxed and into the scheme of things. Want to contact us by text or by email? This is how.
Use your mobile phone to keep in touch with Peterborough FM. Why not text us on 60777? That's 60777. Begin your message with 337PC. That's 337PC. PC for Peterborough Community. A space, then your comment. Standard network text charges apply. Alternatively, send us an email via studio@peterborough.fm. That's studio@peterborough.fm. One station, many communities. And we're waiting to hear from you.
This is Phil Brooks. Join me every Saturday from 2 till 4 for 2 hours of great music, trivia, unsigned acts, and much, much more. To be a part of it, just email studio@trulyindieradio.com or follow us on Twitter @RightTrackPFM. That's the Right Track, Saturdays, 2 till 4 on Peterborough FM. One station, many communities.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
All right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
Reporting today for a future tomorrow. The watchdog you can trust. This is Doomwatch.
And it is 22 minutes past 6 p.m. Welcome back to Central Peterborough in the UK. AlexG here with you again. Oh, it's been one of those weeks. Have you had one of those weeks? I tell you what, I have had one of those weeks where it's just been fighting an uphill battle on everything, and it's just like things that should have taken 5 minutes took 555, and I'm not exaggerating in some cases. But I'm delighted to say there's good news right at the end of the day, which made my day. There you go. It's the cover to Mindful. That's my book, that is. Mindful is actually, I'm picking it up, all being well, if there's no sort of technical problems and problems with the roads and whatever else, picking it up 20th of October, Monday the 20th of October, so I shall have it all there in time for... You know, here comes the advert, your constitution, your health. That is happening 1st and 2nd of November. It's getting close. We're going to be heading there 4 weeks today. And now there were people saying, is it possible that Lexi will be there and we will get her autograph? Lexi, will you be there and will they get your autograph?
Have people really been saying
Yes!
Yes, I will be there.
I mean, I announced the fact that my book had gone to press, and somebody said, "Can I get Lexi's autograph?" And I thought, "Not on my book, you're not." But there you go.
Thank you.
But there we go. So, can you see this? You can see this in all major news agents, not the little corner ones and the ones at the rail stations, because this is on the back of Nexus, the latest edition of Nexus. If you've never seen Nexus magazine, go and find it, particularly this month. And don't forget, when you're there, turn the front one on the rack that way round, and then that'll be a bit of anarchic way of advertising the conference. Yes, so yes, it's heating up, it's cranking up. And just to let you know, we were wondering how this was going to work because, as it says quite clearly, it's one weekend, 2 conferences, 1 venue, 2 completely different themed conferences, effectively being organised by 2 different groups of organisers. So effectively, if, for instance, for some reason the Constitution is not your bag because you're a globalist, I can't think of another word for prostitute, I'm afraid. So if you're a globalist type person who thinks that it's perfectly all right to rip the Constitution apart, but you like your health and you think, yes, of course, there's no resonance between the two. The fact that the big pharmaceutical companies are probably in league with the governments who are bringing in this destruction of our rights, forget human rights, full stop, then obviously you can just go to the one. If you're of the other mindset and thinking, I don't want to give up my Constitution, but I'm certainly also not giving up my McDonald's, other brands of fast food trash are available, then obviously it's the Saturday of your Constitution that you should be looking at. So there we go. But what I was going to say, there was a point to this. The bookings at the moment per day, what is happening is 80% of the people who are booking for the weekend, for both conferences. 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 people who are booking for the whole weekend, which is brilliant. We thought it was going to be sort of maybe 20%, 25%, but this is massive. So a big thank you to everyone who said, hey, you know what? I like a bit of that, and I like a bit of that. I'm going into Harry Hill mode. So who's going to win out of your Constitution and your health? There's only one way to find out. Fight! God, has he been off TV that long that nobody remembers? I don't know.
I might buy myself some fake nails for this conference.
Fake nails?
Yeah.
Be afraid, be very afraid.
I'm going all out.
Yes, don't cross Lexi, all those nails will be right down your back. Oh dear, where is this going? I don't know. I know where it should be going. Let's go to Lexi.
Hi. Yes.
Oh, hello.
I'm not David. Says, breaking news. NBC cameraman is diagnosed with Ebola.
Oh, yes, is he really? Uh-huh.
Yes. Fiona Gregory, hello, haven't heard from you before. I think it will be a hung parliament next year.
Not well hung, though. That's a problem.
I am not David. I don't understand mortgages. And he keeps saying he doesn't understand them.
Well, we tried. We tried at the top of the show, as I say, benefit of some research, but there we go. Oh.
Harry Brown, were they missold their mortgages? Worth looking into.
That's going to be the next growth area. Mis-selling of mortgages.
More phone calls to me. I seem to get 100 a day.
We're just getting to the cusp of where the endowment mortgages, where you basically, they said, oh, don't just have a capital and interest mortgage where you pay off so much every year and eventually you're paying more off than you're paying interest and whatever. The mortgage endowment was, well, you put all this money into this policy, into this endowment policy, and it grows and grows and grows and grows, and you'll end up with probably 40, 50k in your pocket over above having paid your mortgage off. Of course, that didn't quite happen like that, and there's a big shortfall. So what do they do with a shortfall? They try to sell you further policies. They are wonderful people.
It's all very scary.
Wow.
Merritt reckons that Virgin/Branson should step up to the mark here.
Which mark?
The mark.
The mark. The mark. Hello to Cult Mark if you're listening. I'm trying to find your email, Cult Mark.
Fiona says Wonga loans have been written off. Good news. Good news indeed.
But probably not for the shareholders and probably not for everybody else who takes out a Wonga from now. But there we go. We shall see.
Ken 50. 15% in my day.
Yeah, I remember those days. For my sins, I used to be what they call an insurance inspector, an insurance broker inspector, which meant I had to look after the people who were selling to the general public. And it does give you a complete wide-eyed appreciation of why some people shouldn't be allowed to handle their own affairs. Really, really, really.
I want to know what Harry Brown means.
Harry Brown?
Yeah. He says, I don't know if I should read it out. Well, yeah. It's just, I'm in the Mile High Club at the moment.
Is he? What, he's using some portable device on an airplane? I see.
I don't know what he means. What do you mean? D. Oberman is convinced that the banks are sometimes out of cash.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, if you want to take out over £500, you have to sort of let them know 72 hours in advance, bring 18 forms of identification, and maybe bring your milkman along with you as well. I don't know. God.
Ken 50. Many countries can't have interest rates anywhere near that, yet alone individuals.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Paul Mack, don't forget you're paying back 3 times the value of your house because of the compounding factor.
Yes.
So, if possible, you should overpay to reduce the interest payments.
Absolutely. Get out of a mortgage as soon as you can. Always.
Lily Cat Baby, I've never owned a house, never wanted to.
Well, another way of looking at it.
Rono, anyone who gets a mortgage needs their head sing to. This is getting...
Yeah, you're probably right,
aggressive.
Actually. Yes, you're probably right.
I am not David Icke. Now, I had to edit this comment. He says, if prison cells get internet and a bed, strap my derriere onto one of those.
Okay, I'm not sure where we're going with that, but okay. Yep.
Plan B, I think.
Yes.
Some people. Wendy Hurst, we've been screaming about TTIP. Canada got sued over fracking. Oh dear. Merit, this is complete corporate stitch-up for total control with the money men. Munch 23, hello. And no GMO labelling allowed on packaging in the TTIP. It would hurt corporations' profits and they could sue. Lily Cat Baby, my oven has blown and it's only 2 years old.
Is it still under warranty? 2 years?
I don't know.
I mean, there is this thing that everything seems to fail just after it's out of warranty.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And we were talking about wedges. I say we,
Wedge.
I wasn't. They were wedges. Fraggles cooking wedges.
Oh, potato wedges.
Potato wedges.
Rather than punishments in the playground. Right, okay.
D. Oberman, inheriting child will have to remortgage the property, but on today's value.
Intriguing.
Lily Cat Baby, giving what little I have to my kids now so they can spend it now. Oh, that's nice. And Merit says, good magazine, Nexus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're good to go there. I found Colt Mark's email. I sent it on Monday, and I thought I really must do this because we're having all these telly references. Mike mentioned sliders earlier, which is going to send me to my episode guides, working out which one he was talking about there of the episodes. So Colt Mark says, when hearing the name of the new terror group in the Middle East the other day, I recall that it sounded similar to something on telly some while ago. As it happens, I could easily remember the name of the series and the episode, which starred Paul Darrow, amongst others. So it's Khorasan. Khorasan has links to Al-Qaeda, allegedly. And Khorasan was the almighty devil, as seen in an episode of Hammer House of Horror, the one being Guardian of the Abyss. Lordy, that was scary at the time in the 70s when that came out. So there you go. Oh, it's all there. It's all buried in plain sight. Now, hopefully, all that sort of banter there means that Brian Gerrish is in position in Plymouth. Good evening, Brian.
Good evening, Alex. How are you?
Oh, terrific. As I say, I was absolutely sort of whole weight on my shoulder this morning, and then finding out the book is going to be delivered in time for the conference. Yes! And I should say that Brian and Mike have given a salubrious, lovely quote to appeal to people to buy the book, and it's very nice. So you'll see that on the back cover, everyone. Anyway, Brian, what I thought we'd do, considering we're in Peterborough and that we've got something happening on Sunday, is if I give you information about the silent vigil for Melanie Shaw, and then we can just sort of touch upon that and what's going to be happening and how people can get involved. So this is this Sunday, the 5th of October. It's at 11 a.m. Baker Park, Westfield Road, Peterborough. For those of you with sat-navs, it's PE39TB. That's Papa Echo 3, 9 Tango Bravo. Now, this park is overlooked by the prison, but sadly not the woman's side of things. People are asked to gather at the Halcyon Pub, Addleston Avenue, and postcode on that is Papa Echo 3, 9 Tango Tango. That's Papa Echo 3, 9 Tango Tango. The Halcyon Pub from 10 a.m. There are play facilities for children and parking at the Halcyon. A silent vigil is going to be held for Melanie Shaw, who is a vulnerable abuse victim and vital abuse whistleblower. And she remains in high security prison HMP Peterborough with no substantive evidence against her, no proper NHS medication that she has taken daily over many years, no treatment for a leg ulcer, no access to her psychiatrist, no visits from her family, interference with her mail, bullying from prison warders, a national mainstream media blackout. Have you heard about it elsewhere? And a stunning lack of action from her MP Chris Leslie as well as other MPs. Melanie Shaw, who is still innocent at law and maintains her innocence, has now been imprisoned, I think, now for something like 70 days. 70 days. The Crown Prosecution Service under Alison Saunders has not only failed to produce evidence against Melanie, but has recently allowed child abuse witness evidence tapes to be stolen from unsecured private addresses of the film contractor Swan Films. So, the vicious treatment of Melanie Shaw by Nottinghamshire Police, the CPS, the courts and the Westminster MPs can only be explained as their sheer desperation to silence Melanie and her testimony of child abuse, rapes, torture and murder at Beechwood Children's Home, Nottinghamshire, and her evidenced discovery of Nottinghamshire Police lying to hide their failure to investigate Beechwood abuses via Operation Daybreak. Now, you can find out more at the Facebook events page. Again, if you look at show page 43 at doomwatch.com, show page 42, it's on last week's feature article, show page 42, doomwatch.com, or seek it out on Facebook via the following phrase: Silent Vigil for Melanie Shaw, Peterborough, 5th of October 2014. And Brian, it seems to be that we are getting so many cases now of people who are either confined to their home and not allowed to escape, Robert Green being the particular person in here, who again has been campaigning vigorously against paedophiles for as many years as I can remember. And now we have Melanie Shaw in a similar circumstance without any evidence being presented, still being on remand at HMP Peterborough. Now, you and I went to go and see her, and it's an intimidating place just to get into, let alone be in there.
It certainly, certainly is. I was just waiting for the shot to come back. Well, thank you for giving such a good summary, Alex. This case, for people who don't know about the Melanie Shaw case, is just extraordinary. We've got an extremely vulnerable lady. She was abused in her family environment. She's then taken into care. She ends up at Beechwood Children's Home in Nottingham, where she's raped, physically abused, psychologically abused, as were many of the other children. Nottinghamshire Police themselves say that the numbers of possible abused children at Beechwood Home alone is up around the 93, 94, and they're already investigating other children's homes, some 13 in total. What has happened to this lady? Has she been protected? Has she been looked after by the establishment to make sure that she's safe, she's getting the best care possible, and therefore her testimony of what has taken place and what has happened to these children is protected? Has that happened? Absolutely not. She speaks out in 2011, blows the whistle on the horrific abuse of children at Beechwood Home. She starts to give her testimony to the police. They say they've started to investigate with Operation Daybreak. But Melanie discovers pretty quickly that Nottinghamshire Police are not doing their job. They don't take her back on site to do a proper forensic investigation. I would have thought that's a fairly basic thing. You take one of the key witnesses back on site to show you the site, to show you what they say happened where. The police never did that. The police claim they did a full forensic investigation of the site, but in fact they only dug one small hole. They did have vehicles on site, but they're not declaring exactly what they did. And then Melanie discovers that the police can't be telling the truth because they're interviewing people that are no longer alive. And when Melanie is then speaking out publicly, and she came all the way to Plymouth to talk to the UK column, talking to other local newspapers, then all of a sudden she is arrested on an arson charge. She's alleged to have set fire to a garden shed and caused criminal damage at the same property. That's paint. No proper evidence was brought into court by the CPS on the 25th of July, but she's remanded in prison and she's been there ever since. And you have reeled off all the things which have happened. She's been bullied, she's been strip searched, she's been put in solitary confinement, she's had her Valium medication withheld, she's had no treatment for a very serious leg ulcer, she's only had one visit from a family member, and she's been bullied. I can also say that we know that her mail is now being interfered with because many people who'd built up a rapport by letter haven't had letters, and indeed many of us are no longer getting phone calls from her. So this woman, vulnerable abuse victim, silenced by banging her up in a high security prison, Peterborough.
It beggars belief, and I noticed that on the UK column news at lunchtimes, you've actually been noting that now and then there's been the odd mainstream journalist who's had a sniff around after being contacted to see what's going on. But there seems to be a complete disconnect in any of that sort of inquiry leading to anything hitting the mainstream.
Well, that's true, although I will say that at the moment we're talking to one major media company and one major newspaper. I'm going to say we're having good discussions with them at the moment. They say they're very interested in the case. So possibly those two are going to move on the Melanie Shaw case. But from other mainstream press, we've had the usual. They get in touch. They want all of your evidence sort of put on a plate, tied up in a red ribbon. They can't be bothered to travel. They can't be bothered to interview people. And then they drift away. They're not going to investigate the story. I think the worst offender is the BBC. Of course, the UK column has already hammered the BBC for asking to get involved with the story about child abuse at Oxford and Cherwell Valley College. They then pulled out. We had a conversation actually with a senior member of the BBC the other day. No, they don't want to get involved.
Anyway, it is 17 minutes to 7 p.m. Time for another very, very short station break this time. We'll be back with Brian Gerrish to talk about the Your Constitution, British Constitution Group conference a little bit, and also all this backsliding by King Cameron concerning more delegation of powers to Scotland, and what's been going up and what's been going down in terms of the polls for Conservative and Labour. Here's how you get in touch with us via text and email.
Use your mobile phone to keep in touch with Peterborough FM. Why not text us on 60777. That's 60777. Begin your message with 337PC. That's 337PC. PC for Peterborough Community. A space, then your comment. Standard network text charges apply. Alternatively, send us an email via studio@peterborough.fm. That's studio@peterborough.fm. One station, many communities. And we're waiting to hear from you.
How would I describe the show? It's 2 hours with me, Mark, local guests, and guest presenters discussing the local events and international entertainment news. There'll be classic and alternative music, as well as new music and sessions from local bands. So tune into The Lock-In, Saturdays, 10 p.m. till midnight, only on Peterborough FM. Lost your love of life. It's too much apple pie. Lost your love of life. Too much apple pie.
detection observation, official dumb media, worldwide analysis, technology, corruption, health. This is the definition of Doomwatch.
And it is 7:15, and this is AlexG here with Doomwatch, your appointment with fear. Ooh, be very scared. The word doom. Oh, that must be terrible. Oh, doom. Don't talk about doom. No! I'm wearing Dr. Doom tonight. And this is actually... It was one of these things. In the last days of my father's life, or in the last years of my father's life, there was sort of 4 years between my mother dying and my father dying in July this year. And it used to be that he was just keen on his T-shirts because it was good for doing a lot and whatever. He used to get all my wife's hand-me-downs because she was a medium and he was a medium, and it would appear now I'm a medium. I can't believe I can fit a medium shirt. So this is my freefall Doctor Doom shirt in memory of my dear father, who would have been 92 today. So happy birthday on the other side of the spirit world. And well, there we go. See, Dr. Doom on Doomwatch. It was a request ages ago, and somebody said, oh, Dr. Doom. And there we go. I said I'd bring the T-shirt in. I have. Here's Lexi to stop me wittering on anymore.
Yes. Wendy says, Peterborough Telegraph say they are sending a photographer, Radio Cambridge and Anglia TV not got back to me.
What a surprise.
Fiona Gregory, bedroom tax should be going too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right, hold up.
There's more. Page 2.
Wendy Hurst on the conference. The conference package is bed and breakfast. Can we get food at the bar or restaurant on site?
Yes, we're actually talking about that earlier.
We were.
The Reader's Digest version of it is we don't want you to go away, so we're working out things like sort of fish and chips in the evening, and plenty of grazing material at lunchtime. Yeah, I don't know where this terminology comes from. Yes, we're going to bring the cattle in. The cattle are going to come in, and we're going to milk them, so you get fresh milk. And it's Friday night.
It is. D. Oberman, AlexG.
Yes.
I found episodes of Edgar Wallace films in English on YouTube recently. Really funny.
Oh, there's so many Edgar Wallace's ones. I think Network have been releasing loads and loads on DVD. Gorgeous stuff. The old black and white 50s material. Beautiful.
D. Oberman, where does Lexi read all these people?
Read all these people?
I think she might mean on the live stream page. There's another page.
Ah, right, yes.
It's not just you lot.
That's the Badlands. That's Thunderdome over there on the live stream, yes. Mm-hmm.
Fiona Gregory on the other side. Google ISIS, part of the River Thames in Oxford. I knew I'd heard the name before.
ISIS is part of the River Thames in Oxford.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Fraggle, if you haven't already, folks, please join the official UK column Melanie's Facebook page.
Indeed, yes, absolutely. I think we have mentioned the terminology. Just put in silent vigil for Melanie Shaw, and you should see the page for vigil, and then off we go from there. There's another page which is sort of generic. That's the event one. Yeah.
Wendy says it's Melanie's birthday on Tuesday the 7th. Please send her a card.
Oh, so she's Libra. There we go.
I don't know.
Yes, Libra, because my father was Libra, so
Yes.
she must be, yeah, 3rd, 7th, yeah. Mm-hmm.
D. Oberman, from what Brian said about getting into this prison, it seems more difficult to break him than it would be to break out.
No chance. Nobody's going to get in there who's not wanted, I tell you. Goodness.
Merritt, I think they must have chosen the homes to send abused children to. Carbra, today I read an article about a man who has been found guilty of child molesting, and he is out on bail.
Yep.
Until they decide how long his sentence would be. How can you be on bail when you've been found guilty by a jury?
Well, only the judge can possibly tell us that.
Fraggle says they will not succeed in hiding Melanie away.
Indeed.
Lily Cat Baby, on another matter. Has anyone seen where they are stopping imports of colloidal silver to Ebola-stricken countries?
Yes. Yeah, something that the evidence is there that it actually helps to sort out and cure Ebola. Tell you what, we'll stop it getting shipped into the country just in case it makes people realise that there is a way to solve this. More at the Your Health conference on the 2nd of November.
Paul R., back on the Melanie story. Many journalists, I think, would love to cover this story, but it could be risky for their careers.
Oh, it's a career killer. Again, there's a 3-line whip here to stop it getting into the mainstream. So I'm hoping Brian is right, but someone will break cover on this.
Carbra, we know that reporters have wanted to publish these stories and their editors pull the story.
Yep.
And that's it for now.
That'll do for now. Might as well ask Brian. Brian, anything you want to take up there that's come in from our shout boxes?
Where do we start, really?
Do you mind?
Just freedom of the press. We're now at a stage where journalists are saying, well, we can't cover the truth.
So I tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to do a little...
we got sound.
Story, as it were, and hopefully Brian can hear me and he can comment on it.
Okay.
This gets back to Newsnet Scotland, and they basically note the possibility of the Devo vow breach grows as chaos engulfs no parties. This sounds like some sort of anagram for a crossword as a heading there, but that's what it is. The likelihood of pro-union parties honouring their pre-referendum pledge on more powers has diminished after key pro-union figures publicly disagreed over the extent of further devolution that's been promised. On Tuesday, Scottish Conservative leader Ruth Davidson appeared to try to limit the scope of the Smith Commission, which will look at defining the extra powers Scotland will receive as a result of the vow signed by the leaders of the 3 London-based parties. In a speech at her party's conference, Ms Davidson told delegates that the SNP had to show good faith in discussions over more powers. She added, that means ruling out so-called Devo Max. Such a plan, which would devolve everything bar foreign affairs and the armed forces, is a complete non-starter. In a bizarre intervention, former Labour leader Gordon Brown called for voters to sign a petition demanding the No campaign keep its promise of more powers. According to media reports, the former Kirkcaldy MP has described devolution proposals outlined by David Cameron as a Tory trap and has urged 100,000 Scots to sign a petition. Well, Brian, I mean, the bottom line is, a petition for 100,000, that's going to make a difference, isn't it?
Well, probably not, but is the sound okay?
Yeah, I'm with you now.
Okay, I got a little bit of echo for some reason. Basically, the whole lot is... I'm speaking on Doomwatch, so I can use a different word. This is absolute crap, isn't it?
Yes.
We have got just constant mixed messages coming into the public from all quarters. We supposedly got David Cameron, who disagrees with his little monkey, Mr. Clegg. We've got Gordon Brown, they've brought out of the crypt to talk about what should be happening in Scotland. Puppet Miliband is there. What we're witnessing is the deliberate breakup of the United Kingdom. There's no ifs or buts about it. So they haven't gone the full step and broken Scotland away straight off. What they're going to do now is more powers, more devolution. You're going to see a press towards an English Parliament because you need an English Parliament to balance the power that Scotland's got. We've got the Welsh Assembly getting more powers, behaving more like a dictatorship every day. This is the overall plan to break up the break up the United Kingdom. This is the overarching European plan that Britain should simply be broken down into the component parts of the English regions plus Scotland and Wales. And of course, London isn't to be our capital city. London is to become a city region of the European Union. That's right. That's why they're already talking about moving Westminster to somewhere like Manchester. So all of the mainstream press and media is just a smokescreen to deceive people as they break this country apart. Sorry to cheer you all up.
No, I think people need to have this put into context because throughout the sort of second hour, we got lots of stories about how things are just moving on constitutionally when there's a lot of chicanery going on around the whole term. Intriguing thing, we've got about 5 minutes before the top of the hour where we need to take another station break. And certainly David Cameron's opinion poll-itis has been very, very intriguing. Before the party conference, the Mirror ran a poll and effectively had it that Tory voters and MPs deserting David Cameron as Labour gains a 6-point lead. So that had Tories at 35%, Labour at 35%. This was the big story. Labour at 35%, Tories at 29%, UKIP 19%, and the Lib Dems down 1 point to 7%. Yes, they'll be having a lot of their local meetings in phone boxes, if you can ever find one these days. And then Cameron came along, and as the Telegraph's reports, Cameron pledges tax cuts for millions. Nearly a million middle-class Britons will be taken out of the 40p income tax band if the Conservatives win the next election. Cameron has declared this, and the conference speech says that what you're looking at basically is anyone earning more than 50 grand a year is going to enjoy a tax cut worth more than £1,300 by 2020, so no mad rush there. Will cost the Exchequer £1.6 billion a year, hoping that they're going to woo back disaffected UKIP voters and wavering Labour supporters. And Conservative strategists hope that it will have the same impact as George Osborne's pledge to scrap inheritance tax for the middle classes in 2007, which is credited with ending Labour's grasp on Downing Street. Now, here we go, other end of the spectrum. In a boost for low-income workers, Mr Cameron has said that he will raise the personal income tax allowance by £2,000 to £12,500, and that will cost the Treasury a further £5.6 billion a year. Taken together, the pledges will mean significant tax cuts for 30 million people. So forget the sort of budget where they give everything away before the election. Cameron seems to be going early on this.
Well, what is he up to, Alex? I mean, if you analyse all of this stuff in the paper, it is complete nonsense, isn't it? Because what was the turnout at the last election? Can't remember off the top of my head, but it was pretty low. Were we at the 38% or something like that? Probably somebody in the chat box will look it up and correct me on this. But if we analyse voting in this country, more people or less people vote than those that can't be bothered to vote because they've seen through this absolute scam of the party politics. So once again, we got these polls talking about shares of the vote. But if you look at those shares of the vote against the number of people who do actually bother to vote, these idiots are getting in on tiny minorities. To get rid of them, and we need to get rid of the MPs from all three parties, in my opinion, of the major parties. To get rid of them, we need the people who say usually, I can't be bothered to vote, to get out there and vote these people out of office. I don't think on a nice Friday evening, probably there's a few people having a glass of wine or a glass of beer while they're listening to this programme. I don't think we want to be wasting our time talking about David Cameron and the Tories or Labour and Miliband or Clegg and the Lib Dems. If this country is going to move into a period where we look after people, they've got jobs, we've got a decent quality of life, we've got to get rid of this nonsense in Parliament. So I think these polls are all stuff and nonsense.
Yeah, there seems to be no consistency whatsoever in what's coming out. We'll tell you what the latest polls say about where the parties stand. And this is just ludicrous. It really is sort of a Walt Disney production. We'll tell you all about that after this break, and join us for hour 2 of Doomwatch.
Use your mobile phone to keep in touch with Peterborough FM. Why not text us on 60777? That's 60777. Begin your message with 337PC. That's 337PC. PC for Peterborough Community. A space, then your comment. Standard network text charges apply. Alternatively, send us an email via studio@peterborough.fm. That's studio@peterborough.fm. One station, many communities. And we're waiting to hear from you.
Wondering what to do on a Wednesday night? Wonder no more. Tune in to the Rurality Show from 6 till 8 on Peterborough FM. That's the Rurality Show featuring DJs Jim and Ollie. We're making local affairs current. We're turning the inside out. Wednesday night, 6 till 8 on Peterborough FM, 87.7. It's one station, it's your station, Peterborough FM. One station, many communities, playing the Rurality Show.
On your phone, in your home, in your car, and even on your laptop. Tune in to 87.7 FM and online at www.peterborough.fm. Peterborough FM, the station that listens to you.
It is it's not 7 minutes past 7, it's 1 minute past 7 p.m. Central Peterborough in the United Kingdom. Broadcasting live and direct in audio on www.peterborough.fm and in sound and vision on ukcolumn.org/live. Welcome to hour 2 of tonight's edition of Doomwatch. There we are, it's 2 minutes past 7 p.m. Goodness me, can't even tell the time when it's in front of me there. Yes, the big hands on the two. And anyway, where are we? This is AlexG, Central Peterborough in the United Kingdom. Doomwatch Hour 2. Yes, and it is the 3rd of October 2014 for those watching on Dave or on repeat or what happens to be at the moment. My special guest joining us from the UK Column Plymouth studio is Brian Gerrish. Welcome back, Brian.
Thank you.
And now let's hear what you've been saying about what we've been saying with AlexG.
Hello. You've been saying lots, and I've got a text. And I was sitting thinking, I haven't had an email or a text, but I got one from Sean in Bicester. Hello.
Yay.
Yes. Hi, does Brian know that the Cherwell College, Oxford, has now been revamped and renamed the City of Oxford College? Also, lots of business in Oxfordshire named after Isis River, i.e. the Isis Hotel. ISIS breakdown recovery, etc. I bet they get some dodgy customers now.
Hello, will you fix my car? Yes, put that grenade, put that interesting new addition on the back, yes.
Hager666, hi. Why is Farage not saying
Farage
not saying anything about November 1st and the signing of the Nice Treaty?
Nice
Treaty. For goodness
yeah,
sake.
Nice and Lisbon. Brian, can we expect some sort of context on the 1st of November as to why UKIP are really ploughing into this?
Or what do you mean, or not ploughing into it?
Well, exactly. I mean, you would expect this was a home run that they could sort of hit into the middle of next week. What's going on here?
Well, I think we've got to come back to who or what is Nigel Farage. Now, normally, if I'm talking on UK column, we're always very aware that we do get a lot of support from some very good UKIP people. But I've been consistent. So if I'm just talking me, Brian Gerrish, I've consistently said that some really good people want the best for the country within UKIP, but what is Nigel Farage about when he should have been leading the party based in UK? He was swanning around giving irrelevant speeches in the EU. What is that going to do? What we need him doing is getting stuck into the fraud and corruption and criminality and abuse here in the Westminster Parliament. So I'm not sure what Nigel Farage's agenda is, but yes, he should be absolutely ripping into the fact that if we don't really stand up for ourselves, we're going to get another load of EU legislation coming in November, which is effectively going to mean that we, the British, are no longer in control of this country. So I don't know who or what is Mr. Farage. I'd certainly like to know what was said in his little meeting with Murdoch when he had the closed-door meeting. And isn't it remarkable that since that meeting, Farage and UKIP, a lot more publicity, all of a sudden we're getting these defections. So the public are being hyped up. I think Nigel Farage is going to be given the job of destroying the Tory party. That what they want is a completely hung parliament so that we can then form a three-party coalition which will be a single-party state, and that will be the dictatorship. So I'm a very suspicious and cynical person. I think that Nigel Farage has a job to do, and that's not saving the country, it's to help skew the voting so we end up with this terrible single-party coalition, as it were.
And I mean, back to the Saturday conference, which is basically a British Constitution Group production over at the Ramada Birmingham Solihull Hotel, Birmingham Oldfield. Sorry, Solihull. I was intrigued by the wording on the website about the BCG, which is basically BCG is non-political and does not endorse or support any political party. The problem a lot of people have with that is that you're covering political issues. So how do you manage that sort of little sort of traverse, if you like, that people do not understand that this is actually not wedded to any particular political party or movement? People seem to have a real problem understanding that.
Well, I'm fascinated you've said that because I haven't heard it before, but okay, good question. When we originally set up the British Constitution Group, the aim was to educate people, including ourselves, actually, about the Constitution, the fact that this country had a Constitution, still does have a Constitution, and if we understand what that Constitution does for us, together with common law, it gives us all our basic rights and freedoms. We think that is an educational thing which we should be talking about. Now, some people might say, well, if you talk about the Constitution, you're being political. But we didn't see it that way. We're talking about the original laws and organisation of the country, how that should be, how we should be protected by it. We saw it more as constitution, constitutional law and society than we did labelling it politics. But the other thing we knew at the time was that a lot of people, the moment you started to speak out, if anybody could pin a political label on you, right-wing, left-wing, liberal, libertarian, communitarian, they'd do it. So, okay, I take the hit that there's a little bit of confusion there, but we are talking about the fundamentals that keep this country safe. We can criticise people politically who are betraying the country. We can talk about treason. But we ourselves are not going to promote any single political party. In fact, the view of most of us is that we need to get the people who don't normally vote out voting, and our best take is that people should be voting for individuals clear of any controls of party whips and the mainstream politics. That's our view.
Analogy time. You know me, I like my analogies. In effect, what we're talking about with the BCG is that you're not on about supporting the football teams, you're actually talking about the pitch. The pitch is what it's all about, and it's getting that in good condition, and then the football teams can play.
That's a good analogy. I'm happy to run with that one. And can I also say live on Doomwatch tonight that we'd just like to give a special mention to Roger Hayes, because I have to say that Roger Hayes is very poorly at the moment, and indeed his wife is as well. So Roger going through a very tough time, and one of the things that we'd like to make sure that people are aware of is that Roger has done a fantastic amount of work getting the BCG started, arresting a judge in Birkenhead. Well, that was an incredible thing, which clearly shook the establishment. And so Roger has done a lot of work. He's carried a lot of battles into the court over council tax, and of course mortgages as well. He's done all the work on the lawful bank. But at the moment, he is poorly, and I think he deserves our thoughts at the moment.
Absolutely. Get well soon, Roger. Definitely. Anyway, back for more from Lexi.
You're all making me smile.
Ooh.
Fraggle. Boris is getting an airport named after him for his services to Satan.
Not Santa. Not Santa. We're saying Satan. Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Lily Cat Baby. Boris and Nigel make you wince.
Do they? Okay.
Paul R. Invasion of the Brain Snatchers, as 44% say they'll vote UKIP. Ha ha ha.
Oh, wait until we get to the poll at the moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ken 50.
What?
Oh, damn. Mm-hmm. Cam Moron and Millie Bland are certainly unelectable for fair voting notwithstanding. Made me chuckle. 0987 Farage on LBC Radio every other Friday.
Good Lord.
Merritt says, right on, Brian.
There you go. Right, support for Brian. Yes, definitely.
Paul R. I know what Farage stands for. Workhouses and debt prisons for the poor.
Intriguing.
D. Oberman. It's my dream when asked in the airport, did you pack your luggage yourself? To reply, no, a friendly Arab man offered to do that for me. Am I going to get in trouble for reading this out?
I think it's a perfectly sensible thing. What would happen if you said that? I mean, would they just laugh and realise you were joking? Or
no.
Would you be strip searched before you knew it?
The woman in America when I was 16 flying on my own who had a gun would not have laughed.
Oh, they're a humorless bunch, some of them. They really are. Okay.
She scared me. Strider says UKIP doesn't speak out about child abuse.
No, and a lot of the important stuff they don't.
Merritt says candles for Roger and his wife.
Lovely, good idea.
UK Kev, voting is rigged. It just gives the voting system legitimacy.
We'll be talking about that in a minute, definitely.
Fiona, bribery and corruption. I agree with Brian.
Indeed.
Munt23, just wondering if D notices have been issued to the MM to shut them up about MS and RG.
Yes, the code is understood. Yes, probably.
D. Oberman, let me mark this evening in my calendar. Brian said crap on Doomwatch tonight.
Yes, yeah, you could see it in sort of, come the day of the revolution, the new calendars will have these dates marked. The night Brian Gerrish said crap on Doomwatch, 3rd of October 2014. Yes.
UK Kev, ask Brian if he is standing again at the election.
Good question. Brian, are you going to jump into the fray again?
There's an ugly rumour that might happen.
Oh, here we go. You heard it here first.
I'll tell you what, that it was the first time, it was fantastic to see the panic and angst on the faces of other candidates. And I'll just remind people that BBC Radio Devon gave me an interview opportunity. So I was standing as an independent anti-corruption. And, well, I'll ask you the question. How long did BBC Radio Devon give me for an audio interview slot?
15 seconds?
6 seconds.
Jeez.
6 seconds. But I managed to lock the reporter in the office in Plymouth, and he had about 20 minutes of what was really going on in the country in Plymouth. Yeah, but
did he glaze over, or did he understand?
He did by the time he left. A lot of people are saying we've got to do something because we need to get these people who haven't been voting. That's absolutely right. If we are going to get these idiots out of Parliament, we've got to get everybody possible voting them out. And just to correct my own statistics a bit earlier, I think the turnout at the last election was about 65%. Tories got 38% of that vote. That was the point I was trying to make, that parties that are coming into power are coming into power on a minority vote. Let's get rid of these.
A little piece of the little piece of the smaller piece of the pie. That's the whole way this is going.
Yeah, but the party system and the whip system is the problem. And Mark Reckless, who's recently defected from Conservatives across to UKIP, had posted on his website a letter he wrote to David Cameron, ripping into him about the use of the whips to close down all of the investigations into child abuse. So I'm going to say well done, Mark Reckless. And the other thing I'm going to just come back to is actually, yes, we have got quite a lot of UKIP people working to try and help Melanie Shaw at the moment, including some of the senior party members. So I'm going to say credit where it's due. We are seeing some very good support on this issue from UKIP and on child abuse in general, actually.
Indeed, good stuff. Good stuff. I should just mention the book again because I can mention the book. Yes, mindful. Part of the conceit of the book is that the only way a new party, in inverted commas, in other words, a collection of independents is in this particular model, could get into power was forming late, running really sort of right to the wire, so that there's no time for infiltration, there's no time for people to be blindsided or effectively quashed by various lies in the mainstream. So that's the little thing at the start of the bits and pieces. We'll come back to Lexi in a bit. I'm conscious of the time, and what you were just saying there, and what comments we've had there in the chat room and on the text, etc., brings us round to where we stand at the moment in The Guardian. It's intriguing. There's something I should note about this article afterwards, and I don't know if this was by design, but it shows the difference between what the Mirror said and what The Guardian said. Mirror before, Guardian after. Tories lead Labour in opinion poll for the first time in 2.5 years. A YouGov survey of the Times shows that the Tories have overtaken Ed Miliband's party following David Cameron's party conference speech, in which he promised tax cuts for 30 million people. Labour has not been behind in the polls since March 2012, just before the Chancellor George Osborne's omni-shambles budget. Asked who they would vote for if the general election were tomorrow, 35% of people backed the Conservatives, compared with 34% for Labour. YouGov's research, which was conducted after the Tory conference, also shows voter support for Cameron's pledge to lower income tax by 2020, but remains sceptical over whether they will be better off as a result. So it's intriguing. I say why it's intriguing. They mention Labour, they mention Conservatives, but unlike the Mirror, don't mention UKIP and don't mention the Liberal Democrats. It would appear, Brian, that as far as The Guardian is concerned in how it is framing the next election, they have already decided it is a two-horse race.
Well, that is The Guardian. If you want to understand The Guardian newspaper, there's a brilliant website. I think it's called Guardian Corruption. You should find it if you dig far enough. And a whole website dedicated to pulling apart the original Guardian's Cash for Questions efforts And none of that told in the mainstream press at all. So The Guardian, very interesting newspaper. And of course, it was the Scott Trust that was actually pumping money into David Bell and Julia Middleton's Media Standards Trust that was calling for the Leveson inquiry to censor the press. And if that's not good enough, we recently had The Guardian reporting on the new chairman of IPSO, the so-called Independent Press Standards Organisation, because Alan Moses, the chairman, was talking to a Media Standards Trust-led committee at the Tory party conference, where effectively he prejudged the Sunday Mirror over Brooks Newmark by saying that they really should have thought harder before they printed the story. So The Guardian supports the drive through the Media Standards Trust to censor the press. And just so that we know, there's a gentleman called Mr. Saltz who sits on the Media Standards Trust board. He's very, very, very big in NM Rothschild. And he just happens to sit on the Scott Trust board as well. So when you're talking The Guardian, what do you really mean? Because this unique newspaper is driven by the Scott Trust, who has a Rothschild sitting on the board.
QED.
Did you know that?
I didn't.
No, I didn't think so.
And I think this is the thing. It's everything is hidden in plain sight, and
once you get digging, it's all there.
It is just never talked about. It's 20 minutes past 7. More of your comments after this break, where Brian and I will also be looking at the Conservatives pledging powers to ignore the European Court of Human Rights rulings. Yes, hell is about to freeze over.
Use your mobile phone to keep in touch with Peterborough FM. Why not text us on 60777. That's 60777. Begin your message with 337PC. That's 337PC. PC for Peterborough Community. A space, then your comment. Standard network text charges apply. Alternatively, send us an email via studio@peterborough.fm. That's studio@peterborough.fm. One station, many communities. And we're waiting to hear from you.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, I'm checking in for my flight.
Lovely. This is our pleasure.
Holiday.
And where will you be staying?
With my parents, they live over there.
Lovely. Travel insurance?
Oh, no thanks.
Have you got travel insurance?
No.
Check to see if you need any vaccinations?
No.
Checked out the local laws?
No. Why do I need to know all this? I'm just staying with my parents.
Is either of your parents A, local lawyer, or the chief of police, B, fabulously wealthy, C, the owner of a private plane with its own fully trained medical staff, or D, none of the above?
D?
Lovely. Are you a superhero and in fact immortal?
Things can go wrong on holiday abroad, even if you're staying with family. So check it out before you check in. Visit fco.gov.uk/friends and family.
Doomwatch. Fridays, 6 until 8 p.m. on Peterborough.fm and UK Column Live.
I'm sorry, we were just discussing Atos, would you believe, because it's come up in the shout box. Atos, of course, those wonderful people who decide, I think, who can actually receive benefits and who can't. Unless I'm thinking of a different Atos, I don't know. Brian Gerrish is still with us. Welcome back, Brian.
Yes, hi there.
I had this bizarre idea in the break. Should I stand for Parliament?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's see what everybody else thinks.
You should. It's remarkably easy to do. Okay, I think the deposit's still £500. If you speak to a few friends, you should be able to raise that. The whole experience of standing, the fact that you don't get invited to the hustings meeting, so only Labour, Lib Dem and the Conservatives in Plymouth were allowed to attend the hustings. Any of the smaller parties were gently edged out, including ones in a local church, actually. And you see the panic on the existing candidates' faces because they are beginning to sense that people are turning against them, and it's just possible you could get you could get a fluke win, and hey presto, they wake up the next morning and they're out of a job. What a wonderful thought! Yes, it's worth it, and you can see all of the fraud in the counts. You can watch boxes of votes being emptied onto the table, each one immaculately folded in quarters. And of course, when you're at the voting stations, some people put the ball in a tiny little piece of paper before it goes into the ballot box. So yeah, get in amongst it, experience it, mix with people of power and influence. Brooks Newmark will be standing, of course. And he's after as much exposure as possible. So, in
all sorts of ways. Yes.
Perhaps you could stand against him in your pajamas.
Well, a sight to behold there, Brian. Anyway, more now from our assembled masses. Here is Lexi to filter, as it were.
Filter. UK Kevs is talking about a video of Natalie Bennett, the Green Party leader, who walked out of an Atos interview.
Oh.
He said, search Green Party leader Natalie Bennett confronted about climate change, geoengineering, chemtrails.
Right, okay.
Yes, D. Oberman says, if I was young again, I would study journalism, just to see what goes on in these unholy halls. Also, could you try to invite a judge to Doomwatch? Maybe we would get some answers.
Interesting idea.
Ken50, has Alex seen the Lego movie?
Yes, I have.
Did you like it?
I almost fell asleep at one point.
Okay. Surprisingly entertaining for a kids' movie, and plenty of occult, esoteric images.
Yes, absolutely.
Fraggle, talking about the crypt. They didn't brick up the crypt then.
Brick up the crypt?
Gordon Brown.
Oh, yes, goodness me, yes. The crypt keeper himself. I can see the likeness now.
Fraggle, good to know you're considering Brian.
Right, in terms of running again, yeah.
Carbra, somebody said if voting made any difference to the running of a country, it would be banned.
Yeah, maybe, but... Anyway, that's a big but, isn't it?
Fraggle, it only takes one, and so many more will stand. It's a way forward no matter what happens. And can you ask Brian what the criteria is for standing as an independent? How easy or how hard is it?
Oh, criteria, Brian. I mean, is it just find the deposit and find enough people who are going to support you?
Yeah, that's all you need is to get your sponsors and your money and get up there and just do it. You need an agent, so you need somebody who's going to work with you and help you put out your material to advertise yourself. But it was remarkably easy. So if there's anybody who thinks, yeah, I reckon I could do that, just go for it. I mean, if you think about it, if we could have tens of thousands of just, I got told off for using the phrase ordinary people like us, to actually get out there and challenge the rest of these idiots, because they are idiots, in the mainstream parties, I think you'd see them wobble. They'd be wobbling now if they saw ordinary people coming forward to stand up against them. But can I just add to that? Don't forget that if you look at the real power base in the country, we could talk the City of London, but we've got to actually talk about the establishment, the civil service. Because at the moment we're seeing politicians change, but the agenda and the political agenda carries on. This is because the power base is actually buried in the bits we can't see. It's there in the Privy Council. It's there at the top level of the judiciary and the civil service. So whoever gets elected has got to be well up on what is really causing the problem in the country. It's not enough just to go into Parliament as an MP and think you're going to sort the country out. People have got to really know what they're fighting, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, because you are going into the lion's den in every respect. The Guardian again, this is their article where they say the Conservatives pledge powers to ignore European Court of Human Rights rulings. Now, I'm sure you'll have an opinion on this, Brian. Under proposals to be included in the party's general election manifesto, the Tories would reverse more than half a century's tradition of human rights authority residing in Europe by giving Parliament the right to veto judgments. The authority of the court in Strasbourg would be severely curtailed, with Parliament giving the final say in deciding whether or not to adopt ECHR decisions. A document setting out the plans promised to restore sovereignty to Westminster through a parliamentary override that would prevent politically unacceptable Strasbourg rulings being enforced in UK law. The far-reaching changes would enable a future Tory government to limit human rights to only the most serious cases, deport more terrorists and serious foreign criminals, and defy such as the ECHR's requirement that some prisoners be given a vote. Opponents warned that what would in effect be a judicial opt-out risks unravelling the rule of human rights law across Europe at a time when Russia and other nations are chafing against the enforcement of ECHR decisions. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but is this complete load of nonsense? That there's no possibility that they can do this?
Well, let's think what's going on here. You were reading that so professionally, I began to worry that you were actually believing what you're reading, but I don't think you were. This is a complete and utter smokescreen, because what we've got at the moment is a drift through of the use of rights. This is actually coming from the United Nations. This is where the key bit of the policy is coming, that we have to have human rights. No, we don't. We have been born as free, normal, decent people to have freedoms under God. They are God-given rights. And so by bringing in this magic term of human rights and debating human rights, what is actually happening is that our real rights and freedoms are being stripped away. So you've got to be very careful in this debate that's being pushed through Parliament. Every time legislation comes in, particularly through the European Union, but I'm going to say if you track it back, it comes through the UN, we are seeing rights being taken away from us. Look at what Theresa May is about to bring in, where she's talking literally about thought crime. David Cameron talking about peaceful terrorists. What is this stuff? If what's the phrase? If you upset the functions of democracy, and who decides that? A judge. We're not being given freedoms. We are being slowly boiled in the pot like the lobster with all this talk about rights. We've got to scrap all the talk about rights. The only true rights are those God-given rights which give us good things like common law and freedom. In any case, look at what Cameron and the rest of the government are doing, voting to go throwing more bombs and missiles around in the Middle East. Our Parliament, 524 of them, voted for yet another attack on a sovereign nation. They don't care about rights, do they?
I take you up on that, because the Friday that happened, I was actually asked by the show before Doomwatch if I sort of step in and just give them an idea of what was going on with this. And this is where I think a dreadful misleading was going on, because the actual wording that they voted on in the House was basically not actually setting down that they were going to start military action. It didn't actually say that. And
well, of course not.
And
well,
then suddenly...
You don't actually... Sorry, I'm being really naughty.
They started. They're off, and it was like... I said, I'm ever so sorry, but they've said this in the House of Parliament. This is what they voted for, and it doesn't mention anything about, right, we're going to start missile strikes ASAP. And then the next thing is, within minutes of the end of the decision, the BBC, guess what, have got an article up there basically saying an RAF bloke has basically said we could be bombing as early as Sunday. And it's like, hold on a minute. That's not what you voted for.
Well, these people are complete idiots. We've seen it with some local MPs down this way. Gary Streeter, Oliver Colville, and a Labour lady called Alison Seebeck, I'm going to say she at least has had the decency to have some dialogue with the UK column over the rights and wrongs of military action. But what were these people voting for? David Cameron's already said publicly that actually he doesn't care about any votes in Westminster, because if he considers the situation right, notice the hand, if he considers the situation right, he will authorise military force without talking to Parliament. This is King David Dictator Cameron at work. So these people, what was the threat? I mean, IS, ISIS, Al-Nusra, what's the other one? It sounds like a lavatory cleaner. Khorasan. Khorasan. It's got to be something like Domestos. It's some form of lavatory cleaner. There was no evidence as to what these threats are about. There's no proper specification about it. 1 minute it's Al-Qaeda. Then we know through Brooks Newmark that I'm forgetting the names myself, I wrote it down, Al-Nusra here. Brooks Newmark said, well, they're linked to Al-Qaeda, but Al-Nusra was linked to the Free Syrian Army, which Brooks Newmark, Tory MP, went and met out in the desert, where he promised to have bombs and bullets raining down. So we've got Tory members of Parliament meeting people linked to Al-Qaeda, and we're supposed to be worried about Al-Qaeda and IS and ISIS. I mean, it's nonsense. It's blatant nonsense. And now we're going to fly a few aged tornadoes, 4,000-mile round trip in order to destroy a Toyota truck with a machine gun on the back. I mean, you couldn't make a cartoon out of this. And, well, I believe they've destroyed another one today. So yes, roughly
£1 million worth of missile to take out 300 quid of scrap lorry.
Yeah, so let's say there's 10,000 of these terrorists dispersed over a huge area, and we are winning at the rate of spending, 50,000, £1 million to take out some beaten up Toyota truck, which is probably worth 3 shekels. This is utter nonsense. And what it's designed to do, of course, is to try and distract the public into believing there's a threat. Watch what they're doing with the other hand. They're bringing in legislation. Theresa May, witchcraft, she's there around her cauldron. What does she want to do? She wants to make this a dictatorship. So this is, I mean, it's disgusting what's going on in the Middle East, because these poor people in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya have had stable, they might have had dictatorships, but they had stable lives. They could feed themselves. They had working doctors and hospitals until along came Blair and David Warmonger Cameron. And, we can laugh at it. We can smile at it in a black humour way. But it is disgusting what this Parliament is doing. 524 MPs voted for an attack on what terrorists? Al-Nusra? ISIS? I wrote down here, is ISIS is.
Exactly.
You need to put it on a piece of paper to understand it.
What's the name this week? And I mean, the thing is with her party speech, the conference, Theresa May, there are other stuff that got sneaked in under the radar. She's called for changes to the way police stop and search powers are used, saying legislation would be used if necessary. Well, I can't imagine them improving the situation on that. And she attacked the Liberal Democrats for thwarting attempts to introduce new data monitoring powers. And she warned about the establishment of the world's first truly terrorist state in Iraq and Syria. And it's just like the whole policy here is fear. Be very afraid of these bogey people who are going to come here and kill us all. Is what we're supposed to believe.
Yeah, well, it's complete nonsense. And, of course, we know what's coming. If you actually tell the government it's nonsense, you are going to be a so-called peaceful terrorist. That's what's coming.
Well, this links into this story. Again, where was this one from? This was Press TV again. A 9/11 British activist hands himself into the UK's counter-terrorism police following British Prime Minister David Cameron's speech at the UN General Assembly last week. In response to Cameron's remarks equating people who question 9/11 and 7/7 attacks in the US and UK, as well as the West's policy towards the Middle East, with Takfiri preachers who radicalise extremists, Nick Colostrom handed himself in. As the evidence emerges about the backgrounds of those convicted of terrorist offences, it is clear that many of them were initially influenced by preachers who claim not to encourage violence, but whose worldview can be used as a justification for it. And we know that this worldview is the peddling of lies, that 9/11 was a Jewish plot or the 7/7 London attacks were staged, the idea that Muslims are persecuted all over the world as a deliberate act of Western policy, Cameron said while addressing the 69th session of the United Nations General Assembly on the 25th of September. Explaining his actions, this is Colostrom, to the Press TV correspondent in London, he said, David Cameron has redefined terrorism at the UN to include people who believe that the London bombings involved government complicity, were to some degree arranged, which I certainly do believe, and I've published a book on the subject, and I also believe the 9/11 was an inside job. I do think Islamic nations are being selectively targeted. It's perfectly obvious, and if the police force are going by his directive, what constitutes terrorism, it seems to me that they need to arrest me.
Well, they should have arrested him. If they believe in the policy, they should have arrested him. But of course, they didn't arrest him because even those police people knew that the whole thing is just outrageously stupid. It's mind-boggling. But what did Cameron say at the UN? Of course, he picks out the fact that you can't criticise the official version of 9/11, and then he says Jewish plot. And a lot of people said, where did this come from? Because although there's been mention of Israeli Mossad agents somewhere on the periphery, I've looked at a lot of 9/11 material, and you say, OK, where does it actually say it was a Jewish plot? But then we say, well, why is Cameron so sensitive about this? And of course, the thing that we have continually said at the UK column is this man has said publicly his loyalty to Israel is unshakable, not to Britain, not to the UK, not to England, but to Israel. And you can't have two masters. So I think what Cameron was speaking at the UN was coming out of his I'm loyal to Israel mouth, not I am loyal to British people who are seeing through the smoke and mirrors and challenging what's happening in 9/11. I mean, you know.
It's balmy. To take us up to the final break, I did say I would mention Richard D. Hall's challenge to David Cameron. You can find this on the website richplanet.net. He wants Cameron to debate him on the London bombings. And this is the email he sent to the Prime Minister on the 1st of October. Dear Mr. Cameron, in your recent UN speech, you said the peddling of lies that 9/11 was a Jewish plot and the 7/7 London attacks were staged. In this statement regarding the 7/7 bombings, you are accusing me and thousands of British people of being liars. This is a demonstrated libelous statement. I challenge you to a public debate on a subject which you have brought to light, which is, were the London bombings a staged event? Having made such statements, you surely should back up the statements with evidence and then be challenged on your evidence in public. If you do not debate this issue in public and with those you accuse of being liars, then your actions are that of a dictator. I await your response. I think he's going to wait a long time. Stay with us. We will be back to tell you all about the new Australian law which sees journalists facing 10 years in prison.
Use your mobile phone to keep in touch with Peterborough FM. Why not text us on 60777? That's 60777. Begin your message with 337PC. That's 337PC. PC for Peterborough Community. A space, then your comment. Standard network text charges apply. Alternatively, Alternatively, send us an email via studio@peterborough.fm. That's studio@peterborough.fm. One station, many communities. And we're waiting to hear from you.
Thursday night, 7 till 9. I like to listen to the Doc Mason Show for everything rock. Great music, live sets, interviews, and sessions on 87.7 FM and online at www.peterborough.fm. The Doc Mason Show, Thursday night from 7 till 9. You've got the rock, Doc.
Reporting today for a future tomorrow. The watchdog you can trust. This is Doomwatch.
It certainly is. It's AlexG here. It is 17 minutes to 8 p.m. Gosh, we're dashing towards the Parliament show at 8 p.m. Paul Smith will be here with all your reggae needs, providing he finds a way to batten down the door and get in. Meanwhile, without further ado, because time is pressing, here is Lexi with your comments.
Hello. Yes, got a text from Sean in Bicester, and the chances are the £300 Toyota that was hit by the 35k missile is still drivable. Top Gear demolished one with a variety of methods, and it still started.
And this one can still drive after a direct hit.
Lee in Ely says, "Hi Doomwatch, do you think the reports on the trolls about the McCanns will be an excuse to go after Richard D. Hall?"
Well, yes, this would be interesting to have to debate what he says in public.
Sean again, what are your thoughts on this report about a pill that is supposed to stop people drinking too much alcohol? Apparently, the government health officials are saying that 3 pints of beer or just half a bottle of wine a night means you're an alcoholic. What's the real agenda behind that then? And can I still enjoy a glass of wine or two whilst watching the show without checking into AA tomorrow? No.
I think it's command and control. I think Brian, Mike on the UK Column News mentioned this at lunchtime, this bizarre way that they're trying to go about curtailing some people's drinking habits. It's just bonkers.
Well, it's not bonkers if you want to create a police state where you're gonna tell people what they can and cannot do at any and every level, you know. You're going to be moved out of areas of the city if you're too rowdy. You're going to be picked up if you're having a can of beer in a park. You're going to be picked up for dog ends. What you've got is a total dictatorship. You will only be allowed to do what the state says you can do. This is the way the law works in Europe, and this is the big difference for our common law. The state is going to tell you what you can do and what you can't do, instead of us being free men and women doing what we can, where we need a law to help make our lives easier or to protect us in some way. So it's not, you know, people laugh when this stuff comes in, but it's drip, drip, drip like an anaesthetic. They're going to get more and more rules to stop us doing everything. And I'm going to say it's interesting to hear in this show, we're being quite light-hearted, I hope, but constantly we're getting little comments coming back to the fact, will we be stopped doing this? Are we terrorists for criticising the government? So we're joking about it, but we're having to joke about it because the reality is this is all creeping in. Can you see me? Because I noticed that I'm wearing blue against a blue background, and it's occurred to me that actually it's just my head you can see.
No, we can see you.
Okay, that's good. Not as much as Brooks Newmark, though.
Oh, no. Please, Mike, don't give us an under-the-table shot, whatever. Anyway, more from Lexi.
Paul R. says, I shall kill anyone who tries to give me that pill. UK Kev, I'll send £50 towards Alex's election fee if he stands.
Right, well, that's first 50. 9 more people and it's game on.
Wendy's going to give you a tenner.
£60. I've got £60. We're looking for 500. £60. We need another 460. Can we hear 460 from someone? Yes.
Cabra, every candidate gets 1 free posting to get their ideas to the people.
Ooh.
D. Oberman, Brian Gerrish on Doomwatch is very uplifting.
Oh, wow. Oh, there you go, Brian. What more can we say? There we go. Oh, hallelujah.
Yes. Fraggle, do people know that only businesses vote for the Mayor of London are dependent on the amount of employees you have? You get more votes. Do check it out.
So the Mayor of London is block voted for by businesses, is what they're saying. Intriguing.
Carbra, we all know that Cameron cannot do what he is promising.
Absolutely.
D. Oberman, I'd like a poster of Brian with his sleeves rolled up to hang above my bed.
A new merchandise range there, Brian, perchance.
I don't really think you want that.
She does. Merit, Cameron's title at the UN is His Excellency. Look
Really?
Yeah, that is true. That's absolutely true. His Excellency. Yeah. Our King David.
Needs to be done in a Bill and Ted way, doesn't it? Excellent, dude, Cameron.
And Lily Cat finishes by saying, what a wonga Cameron is.
I think this could catch on. Yes, Wonga Cameron. Well, here's some more ideas for our beloved king. This is from a website. I love some of these website titles. Hangthebankers.com. And they've noted that new Australian law sees journalists facing 10 years in prison. Australia's lower house of parliament has passed the first in a series of counter-terrorism amendments toughening the country's national security law. The new legislation could see journalists jailed for reporting on related matters. The National Security Amendments Bill number 1, passed by Australia's House of Representatives on Wednesday, says a person who discloses information relating to a special intelligence operation may face from 5 to 10 years behind bars. Copying, transcribing or retaining records of the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation is also outlawed, which is seen as a measure taken in the wake of Edward Snowden's leaks of documents on the US National Security Agency. Reporting on national security matters is being restricted simultaneously with more powers being granted to the country's surveillance agency, with their power to monitor computers being expanded. So I'm not sure, Brian, whether they're now ahead of us and we're going to be catching them up, or whether they're playing catch-up with us in terms of...
I've never been to Australia. It was a great sadness that I visited a lot of places with the Navy, but not Australia. I would like to go there, but I'm hearing from a lot of people that it is a pretty heavy country now. It's not the beer-swilling, happy-go-lucky, pack your own gun and do what you want. It's become quite a draconian state. So I'm going to say I think that Australia is actually worse than UK aspects. But I suspect somebody will fill me in for that remark.
And of note to any of our Down Under listeners, who of course, this is a worldwide broadcast. Ian R. Crane is doing a tour in Australia in the coming weeks, I believe. So
yeah, he's been sent as a secret weapon by all good people. We've sent Ian Crane as a heavyweight, small container heavyweight, to sort the Australians out. So I hope he's going to be causing a lot of trouble and getting the truth out about the real dangers of fracking and other matters.
And I think that he basically the series of lecture tour, I think, is called Apathy Kills, and it's basically on the line of if you just shrug your shoulders and go, what can I do about it? Guess what?
You're going to die.
Yep. Yeah, it's the bottom line. So anyway, we were talking about Nexus magazine earlier, and of course, yes, on the back cover. Go and sort of put the back cover and display in your local newsagents where you find it, and say back cover. Look at the back cover. Brian, you're going to be presenting on the Saturday conference for Your Constitution, the day the UK stood still. And I mean, your presentation's got a working title in How Constitution Can Trump Communitarian. So, I mean, give people a flavour of what they can expect from your presentation on Saturday, the 1st of November.
I just don't know what to say because I haven't started it yet.
Okay.
No, well, I could say a few things. I mean, my job is to give people an overview of what the state of the nation is in 2014, and it's no good us scaring people too much. I normally like to do that, but we're going to try and take them into a better space and say, yes, it is pretty grim in this country, but these are all the things that we can do. And actually, most of it is to dust off all of the protections that we've got in our Constitution, and in particular common law. If we were forcing common law and certainly trial by jury back into our courts, so we were kicking out the judges who think they can be in a star chamber, we could get things back to normal pretty quickly. So we're going to say that, once again, if the British Constitution Group can help educate people as to what's really going on in the country and how we can use not some new powers to get things back under control, but all of those original powers that very, very wise people hundreds of years ago, they knew what a dictator was. I mean, let's face it, they were being locked up in dungeons and having their heads chopped off or hung or drawn, quartered. So they saw the violence and the nastiness of the despots. And what did they do? They came up with a plan to be able to formulate a constitution to protect individuals, protect families, to ensure that we have a proper life. If we get those protections back in place, we're going to be doing extremely well. And I think we can. But as you say, the time has now come for people not just to be tweeting and emailing, but to actually get off their bottoms. They've got to stand up and be counted. Otherwise, it is going to get pretty ugly in this country very rapidly.
And we keep saying it is accelerating, isn't it, Brian? But the implementation of this is just coming at us on all angles, and it's very difficult now to actually keep up with what they're doing.
Yeah, can I say, Alex, I was very impressed with myself then, because it's absolutely true. I haven't done anything yet to put that speech together, but I thought on reflection I'd given a brilliant political answer, which was to say a lot without really saying anything in the cause of politics.
Well, let's put it this way. If this was a general election, I would not have expected you to lost your deposit on that one. Definitely not. Good stuff, sir. Good stuff. I need to say to people, if you are a member of the British Constitution Group, go to the website of britishconstitutiongroup.com, log in, and you will find some special BCG rates within there. For the rest of us, do go and visit the website www.doomwatch.biz. That's B-I-Z. www.doomwatch.biz. That's all you need to remember. You can, all the details of where, when, how is all on there. It's lined up in 3 columns. We were trying to make it easy for people. That the left-hand column was Saturday, and the centre column was Sunday, and then the right-hand column was for the whole weekend. I am getting feedback that people find that very confusing. Well, I think there is something Darwinian going on here, because if you find that confusing, this may not be the conference for you. Anyway, Brian, thank you very much for joining us on this. I said to Steph and I said to Lexi before we started the show today, I said it's going to be 5 to 8 before we know it, and it's happened again. So thank you very much for joining us, and have you enjoyed it, sir?
It's been brilliant. If you can get to Peterborough to support Melanie Shaw on Sunday, please do. If we can get Melanie out of prison, we can get other people out of prison, we can start to turn this crap, I've said it twice, back.
Indeed. People will be taking notes for their calendars. So that is Sunday the 5th of October. Meet at 10 a.m. at the Halcyon Pub on Addison Avenue. That's for 11 o'clock at Baker Park, Westfield Road, Peterborough. We'll see you again next week for more Doomwatch.